When conservative activist Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the tragedy stunned and shocked the world. Almost immediately, conversations about his legacy took on a spiritual dimension. Over the days that followed, I noticed a lot of Catholics talking about how he was considering becoming a Catholic.
So I'm not Catholic, but I have great respect for Catholics.
And some asked a provocative question. Could Charlie Kirk one day be canonized the saint in the Catholic Church? At first glance, the idea sounds improbable, but what do I know? The Catholic Church has a long and precise tradition of recognizing saints, and understanding how it works sheds light on why the question even arises. So what does the Catholic Church mean by saint? In Catholic theology, the word saint has two layers of meaning. In the broadest sense, all who are in heaven, known or unknown, are saints. This is what Catholics refer to when they profess belief in the communion of saints. But in the formal sense, a saint is someone the Church has canonized, that is, officially recognized as being in heaven and worthy of universal veneration. These saints are models of holiness with feast days on the liturgical calendar and names etched into church history. Canonization itself is a step-by-step process. A candidate is first declared venerable, then blessed after one verified miracle, and then finally a saint after a second miracle is confirmed. It's a formal process. Now, why would anyone even consider Charlie Kirk for sainthood? We know he wasn't Catholic. The surprising thing about Charlie Kirk's critics is that since his assassination, clips of his videos and debates with people that he disagreed with or that disagreed with him have saturated social media. And as a result, many learned that they were completely misinformed about him. I suppose they blindly believed that narrative that he was a racist bigot. After watching his videos, perhaps trying to find evidence of what they believed, many came to realize what a patient, honest, and kind man he actually was. He was known primarily as a political firebrand, but Charlie also had another side, which was his deep faith.
Something I do not earn, but has been given to me, this free gift of eternal life.
Now, was he saintly? Of course, a thorough investigation into his life would be needed. Does he meet the criteria to be canonized within the Catholic Church? Well, in the months before his death, he was reportedly attending Catholic Mass, making videos about the Virgin Mary.
First say, I think we as Protestant evangelicals under-venerate Mary. She was very important.
And speaking privately with a priest about conversion. This is what I've heard. At one point, he was said to have told his friends that he was this close to becoming Catholic. We know his wife grew up Catholic, and she was seen proudly waving a rosary to a crowd of supporters mourning his death. His assassination only intensified speculation. Was he killed solely for his politics or his faith? Or did his growing openness to Catholicism play any role? Well, to even begin the road to sainthood within the Catholic Church, the Church sets strict conditions. The person must be deceased for at least 5 years, unless the Pope waives the rule, proven to have lived with heroic Christian values and virtue, the subject of verified miracles attributed to their intercession after death, and lastly, in full communion with the Catholic Church. That last requirement poses the greatest obstacle for Charlie Kirk. At the time of his death, Kirk was not formally Catholic. Did Charlie Kirk demonstrate the kind of virtues the Church requires? Supporters might argue that his courage, conviction, and willingness to speak out in hostile environments, especially about his faith, reflected Christian fortitude. Critics would counter that sainthood requires not just zeal, but also humility, charity, and balance across all the virtues. A thorough investigation into his life would shed light on all of his virtues. On miracles, well, none have yet been reported. In canonization cases, the faithful often begin praying for the candidate's intercession. If healings or extraordinary favors are documented and defy medical explanation, for example, then the Church launches rigorous investigations. But without miracles, the process cannot advance. The Catholic identity requirement is actually central. Canonization is not just about recognizing holiness. In a generic sense, it's about affirming someone as a Catholic model for the whole Church. Still, there are historical precedents for people who were on the path to Catholicism but died before receiving the sacraments. The Church recognizes the concept of baptism of desire, the belief that someone who earnestly intends to enter the Church but dies before doing so can still receive the spiritual fruits of baptism. Saint Emerentiana, for example, was a catechumen in the 3rd century who was killed before her baptism. She is venerated as a saint because her martyrdom sealed her faith. It was a baptism by blood. In Kirk's case, his Protestant baptism, if it used water and the Trinitarian formula, from what I understand, would already be considered valid by the Catholic Church. His conversations with a priest, attendance at Mass, and public comments about Mary might, in theory, be cited as evidence of his intention to convert. Another angle is martyrdom. The Church teaches that martyrdom for the faith can substitute for baptism or miracles. The critical question then would be, was Charlie Kirk killed because of his faith, Catholic faith, or because of his politics? I think the answer is clear. But if his assassination were shown to be directly tied to his Christian convictions or his desire to become a Catholic, that would dramatically change how the Church viewed his death. But if it was purely political, martyrdom just wouldn't apply. Could Charlie Kirk be canonized the saint? In theory, yes. If there were, for example, strong evidence of his intention to join the Catholic Church, if miracles were attributed to his intercession, and if his death could be interpreted as martyrdom, the Church could one day consider his cause. But in practice, the hurdles are enormous. Canonization is rare, deliberate, and demands extraordinary evidence. For now, Charlie Kirk remains an incredibly inspiring example for all of us, regardless of what religion any of us identify with. I'm personally heartbroken by his assassination, but confident that his mission will continue stronger than before. Whether he will be remembered as a saint depends not only on how history judges his legacy, but on how the Church discerns his life, his death, and the prayers of the faithful who invoke his name.